Get Away was one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen in the history of my life. I'm going to review this one. There are going to be some spoilers in this review. I'll let you know when I start that. I will try to give a quick review without getting into spoilers, but it's pretty tough to talk about this movie without spoilers. And I don't think this movie is like a big movie or anything. I don't even think it was in theaters very long. It was a limited run, and there weren't that many movies playing. A few days ago when I decided I wanted to go to the movies, I almost didn't go until I saw this one, and the synopsis sounded pretty intriguing to me. And it says, a family on holiday in a remote Swedish island discovers a serial killer on the prowl. Okay, cool. So a family's going on vacation somewhere, and there happens to be a serial killer in the area, and somehow this serial killer is going to cross paths with the family. Sounds intriguing enough. How bad can it be? A cool horror movie. That wasn't this movie. Every synopsis I can find says that. That's not this movie. That's not what happened in the movie. That's not what this movie is. Yeah, it starts out with a family heading on vacation. They're driving in a car all together. They seem like a pretty typical family. You have the teenagers, they're on their phones, faces in the phones. There's some jokes, and it's a very typical family. The son will cuss. The dad will say, hey, language. And yeah, it's all well and good.
So in 1824, the whole island quarantined itself until most people had either died or had turned to cannibalism.
Once they start getting into Sweden to get close to their destination, you start to get some weird characters. You start to get some weird vibes. And when they actually get to the island they're going to, you definitely have a sense that they're not welcome there. There's a lot of weirdness going on, a lot of strange rituals and traditions, and you start to get a movie kind of like the movie Midsummer. If you remember that movie from 2018, I wasn't a huge fan of it. And there are movies like that. Normal people get caught up in this very strange atmosphere where there's crazy rituals that could include death, could include some horrible violence. You don't know where you're at and you don't know what's going on. And a normal person would usually get the hell out of there, which was one of my criticisms of Midsummer, that they never would leave because the movie has to happen, that kind of thing. And I kind of thought that's where this movie was going. But as they're in the island, and yeah, weird stuff happened, weird people happen. For the most part, this family's behaving more or less normal. But there's a point in the movie where things go totally off the rails, and there's a massive twist. And from that point on, nothing really makes sense. All I have is more questions than answers. I start trying to think of the first half of the movie and like, were there any signs that this was coming? I'm like, oh, maybe, not really. And then I start only thinking of indications that this couldn't be happening. And then I'm starting to try to figure out why and how any of this makes sense. And then it's going for laughs that aren't really, but it's not funny because it's so unrealistic. It's so out there. It's just so off the rails. And the horror doesn't really work because they're trying to be funny. So the comedy kind of clashes with the horror, and as it turns out, it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. And it is that English movie that I know maybe it fits some of their humor a little better. I'm not really sure, but I never laughed once, so the movie wasn't funny. It wasn't scary. All I can say for it is it wasn't totally boring because it was so weird and crazy that I kept watching, trying to figure out what the hell I was watching. And that's almost all I can say. I'm going to tell you right now, this movie is really strange. I didn't like it. I don't think it's very good because there's just not a lot to take away from it. The only thing that's entertaining about it is it's so crazy during our first watch that you're just like, what the hell is going on here? And so, sure, there's that. And so I would say for this one, I would have to say soft pass, like not a hard pass, soft pass. I wouldn't recommend it, but if there's nothing else you're interested in, you might get some entertainment out of it just because it's so weird and crazy. But we got to get into spoilers. So like I said, the family that you see here, they're making this trip. They're in a car at the beginning and they're acting like a normal family. There's really no indications that they're not a normal family other than the fact that the dad's kind of weird. He's kind of a strange guy, funny guy. And the fact that they even want to make this trip because they're going to this isolated island in Sweden it's got some weird rituals. They were warned on their way there, hey, you don't want to go there. They went to a restaurant And the guy at the restaurant, who's kind of a scary dude, was like, you can't go to that island. You won't be welcome there. So anyway, they insist on going. There's a kind of a shuttle, a boat. I can't remember exactly, but they're going to get on this boat that's going to take them to the island. And even the people running that shuttle were like, you guys want to go there? Like, this is very weird. This is very unusual. They don't get visitors to this place. This place is not really open to the public. Like, well, is there a law against it? Not really a law against it, but you don't want to go there. But they do want to go there. An interesting thing happened after the dad paid for the meal, and it was a lot of weirdness there. It was a little interesting, a little creepy, because of the guy that worked at that restaurant was just so weird, and you're just kind of getting curious of what's going down here, what's going to happen. But the dad goes back. He forgets his wallet. He goes back to grab his wallet. You think something's going to happen, but nothing happened. He comes back out, and they get on the boat. And I took note of that. I'm like, why would they show that? Movies don't just show stuff just because. In real life, that can happen. I forgot my wallet. Let me go grab it real quick. Okay, grab it and come back out. That happens in real life all the time. Movies don't have time for just stuff like that, right? Movies don't have that unless there's a purpose. So I did file that in my head, like, I think that's going to mean something sometime at some point, but then I kind of forgot. So they go to the island, and indeed, they got some weird rituals. I mean, freaky stuff. They kill animals. They throw them on their porch. There's an old lady, and she's kind of the main, like, thinking that she's going to be the main villain, and she's putting on the play. She's helping organize the play, but she does not like these visitors here. And in fact, she talks about, we're going to use them as a sacrifice. We're going to kill them. She wants to kill them. And she's getting some pushback from some of the other people on the island. Like, that's old fashioned. We don't do that anymore. We don't actually kill people anymore. That's been many, many years. But she wants to bring that tradition back and kill this family. So now it's getting interesting, a little interesting. The family, meanwhile, are acting, again, normal, funny, somewhat funny. I'm not funny like I'm laughing, but they're trying to be funny. And the guy that rented him the B&B, he is a really creepy guy, but he's actually the nicest one on the island, but he's still very creepy and weird. And he's kind of spying on them, and the daughter's kind of figuring this out. And she even goes to the dad and says, I think he's spying on me. I think someone's looking at us through the mirrors. The dad kind of says, oh, I'm sure it's nothing. But he comforts her. They're more or less a normal family, and they don't reveal anything other than that they are a real family. They're on vacation. And I'm thinking this is going, if anything, it's going kind of cliche. The movie's really nothing special so far, but I'm interested. But then the twist, and I will have to give credit where credit is due. Like, it was not cliche. It was not typical. It took a huge twist that I didn't see coming. And it came out of nowhere. And it really makes no sense because the movie tried so hard to convince you and convince me and convince the viewer that they're just a normal family on vacation. Creepy stuff is happening. As far as the serial killer in the synopsis, there was a guy recently released from prison or something who is a serial killer on the loose, but it's only vaguely mentioned. And it's only mentioned to kind of throw the audience off when we find out that the guy who worked on that restaurant was murdered and there's blood everywhere. So when we find out that, we're kind of thinking, oh yeah, that serial killer's on the loose. So he must have done that. He's going to come after this family soon. And this is the whole premise of the movie. That's what they wanted you to think. It was such a tiny, tiny mention, and that serial killer wasn't really shown doing anything. So I was just waiting to find out, like, something was off, like, about the movie. I was just like, where is this going? Why aren't we seeing the serial killer? Why didn't they show the serial killer kill the restaurant owner? And only after I saw the twist did I remember that the dad went back into the restaurant. The dad is the one who killed him. In fact, this whole family is a bunch of psychopaths, because one scene happens, all of a sudden, they murder the guy, blood going everywhere, and they start hacking him to death. I say the guy that rented them the B&B. They murdered him in cold blood out of nowhere. And now this whole family's got like murder in their eyes. I thought, I couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm like, is this a dream sequence? Or was something in the cookies that they just ate? Because they all ate some cookies that were gifted to them. They were holding the cookies and butchering the guy. I think the cookies were meant to kill them, so they didn't eat them. I'm sorry, I know I'm all over the place, but it threw me off when that happened. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And this is the twist. The family are not a real family. They're not actually related. they're a bunch of sick, crazy murderers. And they're all teaming up for some reason to come to this island to kill everyone. And then they go in a full-out war, and they go to the play, and they bust into the play, and they just start killing people like they're skilled assassins with weird, crazy weapons, just slicing people. And sometimes they'll get hurt and they'll laugh. Blood could be spraying out, and they're laughing. Now it's just a blood fest. It just goes off the rails, but they're all laughing like maniacally, and it doesn't make a lot of sense because they were acting like a normal family. There was a mention of like they were in character, so I guess that's the excuse, because they were in character. So even when they were all alone in the car, they were in character, so they weren't. But that's, come on. I mean, that's just, I mean, talk about pushing the boundaries of what's logical and real. I mean, what psycho killers come together like this who are so psycho that they don't, like, it was just crazy, and they were just killing everyone, blood everywhere, and that's pretty much the rest of the movie. Then the dad even killed the son out of nowhere because the son was annoying him. So he goes, plow, blood squirting from the son, and he's still talking while he's down, like trying to be funny. And then the mom and the daughter were not too upset, but they were like, oh God, now we got to clean up this mess. And it was supposed to be funny. It was all for laughs. And the rest of the movie is just blood, blood, blood. And these people just kill everyone. And I'm kind of checked out here just watching it. Like, what? What the fuck? Because it made no sense. And I'm thinking back, and I'm like, okay, they showed a few signs, I guess. There was one indication that they weren't brother and sister, because it was kind of a disturbing scene where her underwear was missing or something, and she was like, look, if you took it to get a sniff, just let me, like, that's disgusting, but why the fuck would he want to sniff his sister? Why would he take his sister's underwear? That's disgusting anyway. I mean, what are we talking about here? So that was just disturbing, because at that point I thought they were really brother and sister. Then it kind of made sense, okay, and why that would make a little more sense, because they weren't actually related. I could never really figure out what this family was doing there. I think there was an explanation, but I was just kind of so checked out. Like I said, it wasn't funny, and the horror was not effective for me. It was just crazy. So the twist was, I guess, what this whole movie's about. And the twist was just so out of nowhere and so shocking, but not in a good way. It was like, what the hell? Like, it didn't make any sense. And once the twist happened, they just murdered until the end. If they would get an arm chopped off, they would laugh. Blood would spray out, and they would laugh. Like, just not normal. Like, they didn't feel pain very much. They would just be, it was just four absolutely insane, psychopathic, sociopathic killers, completely deranged and out of their minds, all four of them, which would not indicate a person able to act and be in character. I mean, if they're that insane, we would know from the beginning. So nothing about this movie made any sense. It was completely nonsensical. It wasn't funny. It wasn't very horrific. I mean, there was a lot of blood. There was some carnage candy in the second half but none of it made sense. There are storylines I think I missed as far as putting on the play and some, maybe some commentary on some certain things. But by and large, this was just crazy, weird, strange movie. Never going to watch this one again. Don't recommend it unless there's nothing else playing. I don't even think it's in theaters. I think it was just a very limited run, but I had to talk about this one. Weird movie. And that's all I can say about Get Away, starring Nick Frost. I know Nick Frost has done some good stuff and can be funny, but not this one.